No countdown, no theme
Going in,
song.
just going in raw.
Warning.
Yep.
John's Comics
Whoops.
with Kids late night. Welcome to the late night show, the new Comic Book Day book club show.
After hours.
We're going into year 6 now. I think we're coming around 6.5 years of this.
Yeah, crazy.
How did you survive?
I mean, how did any of us survive anything these days?
It's been a wild 6.5 years, I suppose.
That's for sure. We're in the weirdest timeline.
Yeah, TVA needs to do some trimming, is what I'm feeling.
Trim away, guys.
But we do have TJ with us, only
What
one
else
in the
do you
chat.
need, really?
He's here with us for this timeline. But this is the show now monthly where Alec and I get together, look back at the independent, specifically comics that came out in the month prior, and then hopefully not crap all over them, but probably.
I mean, well, no, I was going to say, I feel like we crap on Marvel and DC more, but that's not necessarily true because there have been a couple of indie books over the years that we've really took a steamer on.
I think Bueller still talks about that G.I. Joe issue.
Oh man, it's bad.
We got JP budget collecting. What's going on, JP?
The funny thing is, like, I tend to remember the really, really crap books that we do on the show because we bring them up more frequently, like Captain Marvel, Seven Secrets, G.I. Joe,
all the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe that's why,
the averagely good books, they mix together in a giant miasma of okay.
I haven't heard the word miasma in a long while, and I was doing all right.
Maybe I'll bust out a homunculus later.
But I mean, there's always the little birds, the dyes, right? They're out there,
right? Yeah, I mean,
the Middle West,
the really like top tier stuff. I also remember just because I like it.
Maybe that's what it is, just the extremes. It's the middle of the road stuff that just more
like politicians.
Oh wow, this is off to a great start.
Hey, it's Wednesday night. It's time to get freaky.
Hump day. Tonight specifically, we got 2 indie Image books that we're going to be discussing with y'all. We've got Rick Remender's new comic that has 2 issues now out, The Seasons, and then we also have, I've already forgotten the other one,
Bug Wars.
Bug Wars, yes, Jason Aaron's big hit, like very popular all across YouTube. I've seen people making videos about Bug Wars. So we got Jason Aaron, Rick Remender, and some Image number 1s that came out in the last month-ish, because obviously Seasons had 2 issues. I think one was January, one was February, right?
Yep.
All right. Did you have a preference? Is there one that you wanted to talk about first?
Well, I mean, this is clearly an assumption, but I feel like Seasons will be a longer conversation because it's 2 issues. So I don't know if you want to do that first, or if you want to do Bug Wars and then leave the rest of the time for Seasons.
No, we can do Seasons. There's 2 issues.
These are the kind of conversations we should probably have backstage instead of bullshitting.
So, Seasons is Rick Remender's somewhat fever dreamy kind of story involving a family called the Seasons and 4 daughters, autumn, spring, summer, and winter, and the tumultuous lives that they live together. The first issue focused primarily on youngest daughter Spring, and she was running through the town trying to catch up with a letter that was in the mail for her, but she felt was really important, from one of her sisters.
And she is a letter carrier herself, so she but this happens to be a letter for her.
Yes.
She makes reference to that a couple times, like, I've never lost a letter, and the one time I do, it's for me. And
Yes. I would say, I think I even commented last month when we talked about it that I read this issue and I felt like it was a lot of time spent with her, but it didn't feel wasted. That I still really enjoyed what I was getting, even though the majority of the book, there's some bookend pieces that go on as well, but the majority of the book is this quirky, eccentric child chasing her way through town trying to catch this letter. And the beginning and end have more to do with the larger universe around her, specifically her sisters, and this carnival that is descending on their town that her sister's letter is trying to warn her about. That sister feels like something is eminently dangerous about this traveling carnival, and she's trying to warn her sisters to flee the city before the carnival arrives. Of course, the letter is now late, and by the time Spring reads it, it almost feels like it's too late, because here comes the carnival. This creepy face here is one of the carnival characters, a clown mime that's walking through the town and seems to really be bringing the creep factor a little bit here. There is some demonic, devilish kind of things going on. Does that feel good enough for issue 1? Did I miss anything big?
She has a pet fish
that she talks to. Yes.
Which, by the way, just to touch on that briefly, I really like the decision to have her talk to the fish, but not have the fish talk back, or at least like we don't hear the fish talking back. It's just we get her side of the dialogue, and it's not a talking fish.
Because we can decide, is this crazy? Is it eccentricity, or is it actually happening, right?
Also, the other, I guess you don't really find this out fully until the second issue, but the other 3 daughters, so Summer, Autumn, Winter, are all wildly successful and famous in their own fields.
And older, significantly older, it seems like.
Well,
it seems like Spring feels like a child, and they all seem like
14.
adults.
She's 14, they say.
She's 14, okay.
So Autumn is kind of like an Indiana Jones archaeologist character. Summer is a big shot movie
model actress or something.
And Winter is this wildly successful painter.
And we meet them in the second issue. We spend a little bit of time with some of them. The second issue really gives us moments in each one of those ladies' lives to better understand kind of I don't know, I guess what made them successful in their careers, because you get to see them living their best life, as far as career is concerned. And meanwhile, Spring is kind of trying to convince Winter to leave because she got Autumn's letter, and Summer is being sort of conned or tricked into coming back home for the carnival. But that's primarily, we're still with Spring for the most part, as she is talking to the goldfish and reading the letter and then trying to convince her sister Winter that they should be leaving. Of course, Winter not really having any of it.
Right. Winter is a cranky artist.
Yes. That's mostly issue 2. By conned into coming, there's a sequence with Summer where she's on a set or a photo shoot or something, and there's a bunch of reporters, and one of them seems to imply, oh, you need to go home because there's this big carnival premiere and you want to be there, red carpet.
Right, yeah.
Basically plays to her ego.
Yeah.
And then when that reporter walks away, the face of the reporter sort of turns into this
it's a different character, but
like a similar mimey clown thing.
Yeah, and also when Spring is talking to Winter, she says something, tells her about chasing down the letter, and mentions that it was almost like getting pulled away by something magic. Like she's like, I
Right.
don't know why it was so hard to catch it. So there seems to be forces at play that we haven't really gotten a hand of. And it's also like not Earth, or not
No.
Earth as we know it, because it's kind of like a world out of time where she's driving a moped, but then they have to communicate by letter, and a chimney sweep has a jetpack, but it seems like kind of, also like in the 30s. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
Kind of
and we're also left wondering if there is some kind of significance to them being their name, right? Is there some magical connection to the seasons happening for these four ladies, and is there some, because I was getting some loose like Sandman-y endless vibes from
yeah.
the women, and whether they're actually in control of those things or personifying those things, or just metaphorically, I guess, kind of like similar to those seasons. I think there's an underlying sense of the mystical here.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like we said, they are all, besides Autumn, they're all very much famous and successful, but we haven't seen them really do anything supernatural per se.
Mm,
Um, I don't know. I forget if we mentioned or not, but their parents also mysteriously died or disappeared or something.
good point. Yeah.
But they've only really touched on that. They haven't gotten too deep into that yet.
Yeah, there's like a lot of news articles and things in the hallways that kind of highlight each of those sisters and their family, and you get a sense of kind of the backstory, but obviously they're not laying us out all the information at this point.
Yeah. Although doesn't
Sorry.
the letter that Autumn writes to Spring, doesn't she say something about? I think this has something to do with what happened to Mom and Dad. Didn't she say that?
I don't remember if Autumn referenced mom or dad, but definitely a sense of like danger in general. So I don't remember for sure. What's up,
I've
Magic
got it right
Lassos in the
here.
chat? I only have issue 2 out, so sorry.
Yeah, it says, I found them, Spring. I know what happened to Mom and Dad.
Ah, okay. So then I guess
she
go ahead.
literally says in the letter, like, I don't have time to tell you about that right now, though, because we have to worry about this evil. She never really says directly that it's the carnival, but she says there's a great evil coming to your town. You need to get our sisters out of there.
Yeah. Did you want to give some of your thoughts on the book?
Sure. First, I will say I found the artwork to be stunning. It is so dynamic, and the color work is top notch. It's a pleasure to look at. It's a pleasure to really be like drawn into this world through this art. I think this guy, Paul
Azaceta?
Azaceta, who I'm not familiar with, but
Me neither.
Top tier as far as I'm concerned.
No, very vibrant. Yeah.
And very creative, and also like very much creating spaces in the world that seem lived in and real. Like his backgrounds when she's driving through the city, like the streets don't just seem like random buildings, they seem like a city or a town, whatever it is. So yeah, that was great. And it's funny because as I was reading it, obviously we've talked a lot about pacing and a lot about things of that nature on the show before. And I thought the first issue was paced so incredibly well. And I thought, at one point I was like, this feels like I'm reading an animation. Like it feels like an animated movie. Just the way you're following this character running through the city. Like I could see this being the opening scene to a movie to introduce you to the main character, where it's not a bunch of dialogues, not a bunch of like exposition. It's just you're learning about this character through her misadventures. And so I know you don't tend to read the little things at the back of the book as much as I do, but it starts off by saying, it was 2020 and we wanted to create the kind of comic book nobody was doing anymore, a love letter to Tintin, Winsor McCay, and Miyazaki. And then it goes on to say something that allowed people to enjoy a story told in another world, told visually, and placed it and paced like it was the storyboards for an animated feature. So if that's what they were going for, crushed it, home run out of the park, because that's exactly what I thought of it when I was reading it. I do think issue 1 was much stronger than issue 2. I think issue 2 spent a lot of time, obviously had to be done introducing us to the other sisters more, although, Autumn is in the first issue a little bit, but I felt like it kind of, even though way more happened, it felt like it slowed down more than the first issue did. Like I was more engrossed in the first issue than I was the second issue.
No, I was as well. Bearded says, I still wonder how much this comic will translate to the casual comic fan who is not aware of Tintin.
Yeah, because obviously it is not, as Rick Remender said in his little letter at the back, the kind of comic that people aren't doing anymore. Like this is not the way current comic storytelling is handled, which is a shame because this is head and shoulders better than how comics are typically handled these days. Like there's a reason why Winsor McCay and Tintin and Miyazaki are masters of the comic form, because they create stuff that is more akin to this. And commercialism in comics, is a two-headed coin, because on the one hand, it keeps the industry alive, which allows for things like this to, fall through the cracks and get through for us to enjoy. But I really wish that Marvel or DC would create a book that's in this wheelhouse, not necessarily like story-wise or art-wise, but just like the storytelling is
taking more of those kind of risks.
So issue 1, the storytelling of issue 1 is so much stronger than 99 out of 100 books that come out.
And I think I mentioned last month that I was like, this is something that I think you would enjoy just because of seeing that style. It felt very entertaining. I think I can't remember exactly how I said it, but I was impressed that a book that was like, I think we said 3/4 is just her chasing a letter through the streets, was so completely captivating and entertaining, and I was very much wrapped up in her world, despite the fact that it is almost that simple.
And it's also like double length.
Issue 1.
And not only does it not feel like it, but it's also still only $3.99. So what are you doing, Marvel, charging me $7 for a regular staple bound book?
Sinful.
It's really really shameful.
Yeah,
Taking advantage of
I
us.
agree with you on issue 2. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting some lag here. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
with the
me
computer. Both of us having the fun computer lag going. Am I frozen? Am I doing all right?
Let me try this. I might disappear for a second. Hold on.
Uh-oh. Just going to be me. People are going to be disappointed. I was saying that for me, I felt the same way that issue 1 was the stronger issue. I think the stylistic elements worked better for me in issue 1. I didn't dislike issue 2, and I don't want to tell anybody that like that's to be dismissive of issue 2. But
no, I mean,
I felt it took place in real time in a way that issue 2 kind of doesn't. It skips around a little bit more.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm only criticizing issue 2 in comparison to issue 1. Like issue 2 in comparison to most things out there, still better. But I think issue 1 was it felt special to me, whereas issue 2 just felt like a good comic.
Yeah, fair. Absolutely. And it needed to happen. Issue 2 needed to expand the world a little bit to move the story beyond one character and give us a sense of the bigger trouble in the bigger universe. So I understood that it needed to happen, but I'm curious kind of where this goes. I don't know how many issues this is booked for, what this looks like long term.
I know Bug Wars, which we're about to talk about, is I think 6 issues scheduled. Although Bug Wars did say like volume 1, so I don't know if it's going to be 6 issue series or something, but I don't know how many issues Seasons is. Try to find out.
Okay. I mean, it feels finite to me. Like it feels like a tighter story, less of a a maxi series or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm fine with it being a shorter series.
According to imagecomics.com, it just says seasons number 1 series premiere. It doesn't say, it just says premiere issue. It doesn't say how many issues it is.
Okay. Do you want to say anything? Is there anything else that you wanted to mention? I know we mentioned the art a ton, vibrant, fun colors. I'm trying to remember the book it reminds me of. There was the one that was like taking place in, I want to say Paris or Spain. It was in Spain. The woman who had like committed suicide, passed away, was like floating around naked above the city.
Am I drawing a blank on
one word? It was like a one-word title.
Yeah, start with a K.
Okay. Oh, Karma.
Thank you.
Carmen,
yes.
It gave me some of that as far as just the vibrancy of the color work. It had that sort of level of just a real vivid kind of color style palette.
And it's also like very flat colors, which I tend to enjoy, rather than like things that look painted or. I'll just got a random page open here.
Yeah, and it may just be the carnival itself naturally lends a certain level of vibrancy.
Yeah, but it's also interesting because it's described as a horror book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is what I get from being able to skip all that stuff and just grab a book and read it and not know. I didn't read anything about it. I had no clue what I was getting. I just saw a Rick Remender 1 and I picked it up.
Which, like, I guess there's some horror elements to it because the circus is very creepy and
Mm.
it makes your skin crawl, but it's not
I mean,
horror like
this
Deviant is
definitely
horror.
gives me the creeps.
Yeah, but it's just interesting that for something that is supposed to be horror or even horror adjacent to have something so colorful and whimsical. I think it's a
Right.
cool subversion of expectations where it's not just, oh, we have to make this dark and gritty because it's a horror book.
Well, we've already got Deviant. We don't need everybody to do Deviant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
No,
by the way, where's my last issue?
Regan A, dude, killing me. The like gap between the last issue and the final issue, it's kind of killing me.
What is this, Battlestar Galactica season 4?
Oh no, then they would split it into 2 issues and extend it. And I think I had mentioned when I read issue 1 that I was planning on reading the rest of it, whether it in trade or some other form, like collecting it all together and kind of waiting it out. Which is, I'm glad I'm reading issue 2. It confirms my feelings on that. I think I would like to have ideally, if it's a shorter series, all in one form.
Yeah, I think, if it's 12 issues or less, it's going to be a great read and trade. But I enjoyed these first 2 issues enough that I'll try to keep up with it, assuming that it's not an ongoing.
Yeah, and I don't get that sense from it at this point, at least.
I mean, the world is big enough for it to be an ongoing, but the storyline that they are proposing so far about this carnival and like it's all kind of happening too fast for it to feel like it's going to be an ongoing, unless this is just part of it. But I would find it strange that they would put the Harlequin character on the cover of cover A if this wasn't the main antagonist of the story.
I mean, that's fair.
But stranger things have happened.
I mean, it certainly in the Tintin style could be focused on these 4 sisters and several ongoing adventures. Which would make it like, several volumes. But, as far as volume 1 is concerned, yeah, I'd love to read volume 1 altogether.
Yeah.
What would you grade? How would you score this one?
Issue 1 is like a 9.4 near mint, maybe. Issue 2 is probably like an 8.8.
And I'm right. I was going to give this a
9.2.
I think as a whole.
But...
Yeah, I was gearing towards like a 9.92 for the whole thing. So that sounds right in the middle.
Right. Yeah, it evens out.
Perfect. Yeah, so go check it out, folks. If you haven't, I've heard nobody really talking about this series, so it shocks me. But sometimes that's those ones that slip under the radar, like Righteous Thirst. I felt like slipped under the radar for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a Remender issue. Well, I was just going to say though, like something like Knights, which I mentioned on our year-end wrap-up, which is now a hyped book because Netflix is doing an animated series. So I guess I was ahead of the curve on that one. Like, I understand why not a lot of people really took notice of that book because the writer had only done Bolero before. But this, this is Rick Remender. It's not like he's a very successful, especially in indie comics. He's done a number of very popular series. So the fact that people aren't catching on to this is strange because I thought it was great.
Yeah, for sure. And then we got one other book for y'all. In Knights, can you remind me? It's the guy that did Bolero, right? Did he?
Yeah.
He's the writer, not the artist.
Yeah, different artist.
Okay, because I put that on my like digital reading list, like something I got to hunt down. And is it wrapped? Is it still going?
It's still going. The new issue just came out last week.
Okay.
I think it was issue 12 or 13 that just came out. So I think it's an ongoing.
Oh, okay.
Or at least a maxi series if it's 13 issues at this point.
Okay. because that's one that you had mentioned that I had not even heard of. So it's clearly one I need to get on my radar.
In case people are. This is volume 1 of the trade. Volume 2 just came out a couple weeks ago. But again, like, this is $9.99 for all this goodness. So give this a shot before the Netflix show comes out, so you can be cool and say, "Oh, I was reading this before the Netflix show, and Netflix show didn't do it justice."
If it ends up even getting, made, right? Who knows? So then, yeah, the other book is the new Jason Aaron title. Issue 1 for Bug Wars dropped, I think, 2 weeks ago. And look, there it is. The concept has to do with a very unusual house seemingly out in the woods, in nature somewhere. And the family that is moving in or moving back in after losing their father, it has been a tumultuous time seemingly for the mom and her 2 sons. Dad was something of an entomologist? Sorry.
Yep.
Entomologist. And he
wasn't somewhat. He was an entomologist.
I didn't know if they had mentioned that he's like, it wasn't just a hobby.
Yeah, no, I think he like wrote books and stuff. I got
okay. And he took his work home with him. His house seems to be absolutely infested with and thriving with insect life. And the book starts. Sorry,
they haven't been there in 12 years, so the house has been abandoned for 12 years.
Yeah, so maybe it's just like experiments run wild.
Well, right, but also like any structure being left alone for 12 years is going to be infested with vermin and bugs and
fair. I got the sense that it might have been more than that, more to it than that, but
yes, certainly reading through the story that is uncovered, but
yeah,
it's not surprising either way that there's a lot of bugs there. But
so the opening of the book,
go ahead.
The opening of the book has like 2 warring factions, an anthill being assaulted by what seems to be some sort of beetles, and it's very much in a Conan the Barbarian almost style. You have these 2 factions warring. There's like a battlefield of murdered creatures, and
they're anthropomorphized as well.
Yeah, so they're talking. They're leading charges. They've got weapons.
Beetle riders, and the ants are like have armor and weapons, but then there's also just bugs.
Yeah. And in the midst of the fight, they're mentioning like another external threat, and all of a sudden the wind starts blowing and they're all just sort of sucked away, and we jump
like
a little bit out.
Yeah.
And we can see the 2 brothers and mom, and they're moving in, and older brother is using a lawnmower, and he's just enjoying sort of destroying the anthill mounds and wreaking havoc in the yard as he goes through with his machine. And younger brother seems to have a lot of affinity for the bugs, and he's got his own that he's bringing into the house, and he's kind of like complaining about how brother is destroying stuff, and mom is kind of stuck in the middle trying to make everybody happy, not really choosing sides on what this is between her sons. Then they move in, and we start to get a bigger sense of kind of what's going on. Younger brother seems to have all the joy and connectivity to these creatures that dad seemed to have. And older brother, who found dad's body as it was sort of, I don't want to say rotting, but being eaten by bugs, is traumatized to the extent that he wants them all gone in the house. And he seems to be living in his nightmare. He's going around trying to wreak all the havoc and destroy these creatures. And when mom goes out, he uses this as an opportunity to break into his little brother's room and start just killing all his collection. And there's one bug, little beetle that was Dad's, and one of Dad's favorites. They have a name for it. I don't recall, but
Well, it is a descendant of.
a descendant of. Okay. And the younger brother scoops that one up and just tries to get away with it and runs down into the locked basement where Dad's body was discovered. And when he gets down there, he's sort of chasing the bug into a crack in the wall, and he reaches in to grab it, and his hand bumps a sort of fractured, broken medallion or some object, and lights flash. He vanishes, and when he wakes up and he comes to, he's riding in the yard this same beetle, and he is now caught in the middle of the bug war, right? That we saw in the yard at the beginning.
Very Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah. And when the ant people try to capture him, his beetle reacts and he goes into battle and seems to be destroying some of them, and the sort of journey continues. And that's I guess the primary elements overall. Is there anything I missed?
Yeah, the younger son, when he is kind of captured by one of these beetle riders and has a blade to his throat, and the beetle rider is telling him, hey, control your bug, it listens to you. He's basically says, like, I'm sick of being walked all over, and punches through the dude's face.
Oh yeah,
with pieces of his jaw flying everywhere. So and his medallion is like Iron Man onto his chest.
Oh, I forgot that. Yeah.
Yeah,
it seems to give him obviously power, but we don't quite know what all that means, and if he can go home easily or if he's stuck here.
Right. And the book is narrated, obviously, by him, although he isn't really revealed until the end that he's the one narrating. But he basically references the fact that, like, he is in this world for a long time.
This is just the beginning.
Right. So he's like, I'm telling you the story of my misadventures with this bug kingdom. Yeah. I've the beginning, I didn't know what this book was about at all. So I went in totally blind. And so reading it at the start, I was like, oh, this is just like a fantasy story about a bug world. And then when it zoomed out to the family, I was like, what? Because it's like full Game of Thrones at the beginning, but with bugs.
Yeah.
Like heads are getting chopped off and split in half, and you know they're really like they're really trying to build up this world, which I understand at the end when the kid gets transported to it makes sense, but he really builds this world where like they have their own kind of nomenclature for things, and
the distinct civilizations are very unique.
Right. And this war has been going on for a long time, and even this battle scene that it's like 8 or 10 pages, or like it's a good chunk of the book. So I thought that's what the book was going to be about, and I guess it is in the end, but it's also about a family,
right?
Of regular.
So how was that then? How was that reading for you? Did it recover from the shock, or?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's a negative per se. It's just was surprising.
Mm-hmm. And I think I guess it's the opposite of Seasons for the both of us, because I felt like I had heard enough buzz about Bug Wars going in to know that it had this Honey, I Shrunk the Kids quality to it.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard that, thrown around in reference to the book a few times. And when I went to go read it, I was already kind of expecting the family thing. And so I took that as the, prologue that I think it was supposed to be, but I could see that being really jarring in retrospect. Sure. What did you think of the artwork? How did you like the drawing in this one?
I mean, it's good. Like there are certain panels that I thought were stronger than others, but like it conveyed exactly what it needed to convey. There's just sometimes it felt a little hard to differentiate what's happening, I guess, in certain panels, especially the big battle scenes. I mean, obviously the artist is very accomplished and handles the book very well. It's just stylistically, I guess, not my favorite, but still very good.
Yeah, and I felt like the characterizations were strong. Like the
Like
differences between the
acting.
various between the factions of bugs, between
Oh,
the
that
family
too.
members, I felt like there was a lot of good distinction between them. I never really had any confusion as to like
No,
which
yeah,
clan was siding with which, and it was very easy to like, because I could see that becoming very confusing when it's like this kaiju versus this kaiju, and how do I
yeah,
know, when you start throwing a myriad of them in, it could easily become just chaos, right?
yeah. The design of the book is really nice. Like the character
Mm.
design, the bug design. Even though like the insects are just whatever. They're insects. They're rendered well, but the bug people hybrid characters are well thought out.
Sure. Yeah. So like for me, like the that was my big concern with the book going in, was that it was going to become kind of a bit of a mess and be harder to differentiate and distinguish kind of what's going on and who's who in the story. And I think it worked really well. I also think the drama between the brothers and the mom was nicely handled. It wasn't too much where I just felt like it was derailing away
Yeah,
from the beginning and ending pieces, but it was just enough to really ground those characters for me. Give it
right.
that I don't know, Lost Boys vibe where they're coming to home to live. Uh,
It also
so
helps that with the bug factions, um, the Beal riders are like greenish, and the
mhm,
ant people are brown reddish. So there is some ability to differentiate them that way as well, which is you
for
know
sure.
tale as old as time.
Yeah, the color work definitely helps a big chunk. Um, for me, this is one that I feel fine reading collected editions of down the
Yeah,
road. I don't know
especially if
that I
it's
need to get singles on this one.
scheduled for 6 issues at least to start. Like I'd
Yeah.
rather just read that together.
Mm,
Um, I mean, and I would like to read it. You know, I enjoyed it enough to want to read the story. I just didn't enjoy it enough to have to read it immediately.
same. Yeah. And for me nowadays with indies, I've really gone to the read that first issue and then trade weight on a
Yeah,
lot is kind of my preference. It's just
unless it's like
the way I like to read it.
something that is like deviant, which I'm not gonna. I enjoy a book like that too much to not want to have it in my collection and not want to wait to read it as well. Even though I'm
Or
sure I'll buy
righteous
a hardcover once it's finished as well.
and righteous thirst was kind of the same way for me. Like I was
Yeah, for sure.
enjoying the singles, knowing that at some point I'm going to get that hardcover and read it all again in one big sit down.
Or precious metal.
See, yeah, same kind of thing. Um, but overall, I would say it's definitely not as good as the seasons for me. If we're just looking at this month, like
So
how,
issue 1 to issue 1, no,
yeah.
not anywhere close.
So I would probably give Bug Wars an 8.2, 8.25,
Yeah.
somewhere in that range. Uh,
Um, I might go a little bit lower, around an 8. Like it's
okay.
still a solid B minus, but and I know that doesn't sound great, but I am as we all know, 6.5 years later, that I'm kind of a harsh critic. And I don't throw away 9.4s very frequently.
Sure.
Like
But
you
worth
got to
your
earn that
time.
grade.
And I think if you're a Jason Aaron fan, or you like fantasy adventure kind of books, I think you'd probably get a lot out of it. It gave me a little bit of Helen of Windhorn vibe as well, but with not obviously without the incredible artwork that Bill Quist Evely brought to that
Yeah.
book. Um,
Um,
So for fantasy
Yeah, I mean,
adventure,
like
kind of
I would
okay.
still recommend checking it out.
Oh, totally.
It was not boring, and
Mm-mm.
it wasn't like there's nothing wrong per se. Like
Do you
when
think that that's what
giving,
that it sounds like we're saying?
well, I don't know. When I give something an 8 out of 10, you know, it I feel like it sounds like, oh, I didn't like so much about this book because why didn't I give it a higher rating? But
Okay.
when I give stuff a 2, like the scale doesn't end at F. There's
Fair.
many layers of failure, and so anything above a 70, I think, is pretty good as far as my grading scale goes.
I think you need that on a shirt. There's many layers of failure. That's gonna stick with me. Yes, but I think
Like
also,
Dante's Inferno, just like every floor gets worse.
but I think you could say the same with mediocrity in a lot of ways, and that's maybe more accurately what we tend to butt heads with a lot is just the common like bland average. And to JP's point, like an 8 is a very high score, and it's something worth picking up and reading. This is what we're trying to get to, I think, I guess, in our review here. Because an 8.25 is not me hating on this book at all. It's definitely me giving it praise and me saying that I want to read the trade at some point and read the whole story. I got the same feeling reading, the later issues in Helen of Windhorn, and I'm glad I stuck with it and went back and finished it. The first issue I felt like was giving me a lot, and I didn't quite know where the story was going to go. And I feel the same here, that I don't know, are we going to still be going back and forth between the human world and the bug world, or is this going to be primarily just bug world from here on out? I don't know, but for me, I'm curious enough to want to know what that story ends up looking like.
Yeah.
Any other books from the month that you picked up that you're thinking about reading that you were curious about? I mean, I've read a ton of the Doom, One World Under Doom tie-ins. That's been most of my issue ones, has been that stuff.
I was gonna try to sneak in Lucky Devils #2 before the show just to follow up on that, but I ran out of time.
I think I read issue 2. I think I enjoyed issue 2. Yeah.
I'm sure I will. I just, I didn't necessarily want to have a whole conversation about it, but I was just gonna. I like to sometimes, if there is something that we reviewed the month previous and we're kind of talking about reading the next issue, it's always nice to just touch on it. But
yeah, no, for sure.
Maybe next month.
As far as next month, I don't know that I have anything on my radar, but I always kind of feel like something will arise across the intervening weeks. But I have been enjoying the Doom tie-in stuff. There was a really great Thunderbolts issue that I thought was really well done. And the Red Hulk issue wasn't bad. That was kind of a fun prison break comic. So far I think this event is off to a solid start. But it's all, predicated on what happened in Blood Hunt, which I thought we both really appreciated. The fun of that event last summer.
Yeah, because Doom is now like Sorcerer Supreme, right?
Yes, indeed. And most of these early issues are basically about people trying to outsmart him in some way or another. He's got the Red Hulk and a whole cadre of strategists.
There aren't many people. There aren't many people in the MCU who can outsmart Doom.
No. So he's got the Red Hulk is him with a prison filled with like Machine Man and other really great strategists, and they are trying to break out to fight Doom. He's kept them there as like his think tank, basically. And then the Thunderbolts issue is Bucky Barnes realizing that by defeating and taking down a lot of dictatorships around the world, he kind of helped open the gates for Doom to kind of do his thing. And Doom wants him to run his secret police, and he's familiar with how secret police stories work out. So he's decided to try to outwit Doom kind of on his own, which is, I think, the biggest flaw in his whole plan. And yeah, it's fun to see the cat and mouse between the two, because they are both people that don't necessarily care about rules, so they're both on the same playing field in that regard. So I thought it was a well done issue. The Thunderbolts one might be my favorite, and I would never have predicted that it would be that enjoyable. So some fun.
Remember when the
fun
Thunderbolts first came out and back in the 90s, and it was like the biggest reveal that they were bad guys? Like Wizard Magazine was just creaming their pants over it.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I don't have any a whole lot of other than that. It's all the stuff I keep reading month to month.
Yeah,
the few things I got like 4 books on my pull list at this point.
Comics, man.
Comics be crazy, yo.
Is that right?
For those that don't know, we do D&D over on Alec's channel most Sundays. So if you follow Alec, we try. Computer challenges.
It didn't work so well this past weekend.
So the link for Alec's channel is in the description down below. We're over there. I am not live Saturday morning because I've got a school event where my school participates in a local parade. So the parade is Saturday morning. And Saturday night, though, Bearded Comic Bro, who I believe was in the chat earlier, he and I are doing a in memoriam for a few really talented actors like Gene Hackman, who passed away in the last year, looking at some of our favorite movies with Gene Hackman, James Earl Jones, and Donald Sutherland in particular among the list of talented icons in film who we lost in the last year. But that's the next live stream I've got. Yeah, I did. It's say your name.
So I actually have something to plug.
Hey, what's up?
I believe next Thursday we decided on. I'm going to be on JP's channel talking about Little Bird again. I don't know if it's just the two of us or if there's going to be other people involved, but if you want to hear me talk about something that I don't stop talking about, tune in over at JP's channel.
All right, so that's the 13th.
Just us. Okay, well,
there it is. Just the two of us. So yeah, more Little Bird happening. Yes, dear Lord, Little Bird is the best. There it is.
I don't know. My fourth read through, maybe I won't like it this time.
Yep.
Got to set some suspense.
Yes, find out if Alec likes Little Bird a week from Thursday.
The mystery.
That's fantastic. So yes, JP Budget Collecting, he can drop his own link. You can click on his name probably and get over to his channel. That'll be very exciting, and I'll have to grab my hardcover off the shelf and crack it open and chat with you guys, and I'll be in the chat. That'll be fun. Awesome. Well, thanks, gang. Next month we'll be on Alec's channel. That'll be the beginning of April, and it will not be that first Wednesday because I come home that Wednesday, that first Wednesday, the 8th or whatever, 7th. Wednesday we could do Wednesday the 2nd. Never mind, the week before. All right, so maybe we do the next one Wednesday the 2nd.
Bearded says John is going live Thursday to talk about if he likes Lost.
Just as big of a cliffhanger nail biter.
Yeah, right.
No joke. He knows I've been rewatching it again. I don't know what I got sucked back in again.
And JP, whether or not you like it will not affect how much I like you,
or how much you like Little Bird.
It will maybe change how much I respect you, but I won't change that I like you.
Respect is on the line.
Yeah.
So good. So there you go, gang. Yeah, next month, probably on April 2nd, Wednesday we'll be on Alec's channel and look back at the books from March. So keep your eyes peeled for more indie talk. Respect that would be the first.
I respect you as a person. I just don't respect you as a D&D player. But that's nothing against you, JP. That's just my DM style. Is that I don't respect any of the players. So don't get it confused.
We're finishing strong.
That's DM Alec, not human Alec.
Oh my goodness. All right, gang. Thanks everybody for coming by, and we'll see you next month. Another book club.
Bye.